If you think things are bad now, just wait till President DeSantis is in office. Repeated targeted harassment against any account will cause the harassing accounts to receive, at minimum, temporary suspensions. The words cis or cisgender are considered slurs on this platform.
He's unbothered.
What's up, everybody? Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. Before we get started, I'm gonna ask that you like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to comment to help me on the algorithm, but don't know what to put, just use a knife. Because, well, at this point, nobody's really coming for my neck because I think everybody's realized that I've tried to help as much as I can, and some people just refuse to have it. And when I say some people, it's the
To us LGBTQPIA plus.
to us LGBTQ community, which, you know what, I'm gonna tell you guys just really quick, I don't have a problem with them being the 2S LGBTQIAP, I believe is what they're saying, plus community. I think that's the way it goes, and I'm not being silly on that part. And of course, when I do the I'm being silly, but really, I don't mind them going by that because that differentiates between them and us. And I'll go ahead and keep LGBTQ, even though I think it should just be LGBT, and the T should stand for transsexual, just transsexual, not transgender, that covers all the other ridiculousness that none of us ever wanted or any of us ever needed. But the old school, going from female to male or male to female, we all know that there's a little bit of a glitch going on there. But with the whole community, there's a little bit of a glitch going on. So maybe we just accept our glitchiness. Glitchy, ya, da, da. Okay, I know that's not the way that song goes, but it's fun. Anyway, we're not here to talk about any of that though, but in a way we really are. Here's the deal. Apparently, James Esses, I believe that's the way you pronounce it, who describes himself as a commentator and co-founder of Thoughtful Therapists, focusing on the impact of ideology on society and the safeguarding of children, who is looks like pretty big Twitter personality. I'm not sure what else he does. I'm not going to pretend that I'm familiar with this guy. I'm really not. I'm reading some of his tweets. I see why the left would be after him, but he expressed that he didn't care for being called cis and he didn't want to be referred to as cisgender or cis, which a lot of people have said that, and I've tried to explain that to the transgender community, but they will hear none of it. For them, that is a perfectly acceptable term, and we're just supposed to surrender to them calling us that. I personally always say I don't really care about that term, but I don't think it's necessary. If I'm just referred to as a man, I don't think anybody ever wonders if I'm a trans man. I've gone over this before, but I do think that it's important to the conversation right now because this is something I've warned about, and I hate to be an I told you so, but I told you so. So if you don't like what's happening, maybe talk to your transgender brethren and see why it was they were so interested in pushing this, and also understand that right now we're living in a world that you created, LGBT people. So if you don't like that new terms of service are being created and people are starting to consider things that weren't slurs to now be slurs and say that that's a part of targeted harassment, maybe you shouldn't have been so comfortable hiding behind terms of service and words like targeted harassment up until this point. So it can't be okay when it's all in your favor and everything's going your way, and then now all of a sudden that people are starting to do it from the other side, suddenly you've got this huge problem. And what can we say? Well, what can you say? I don't know. I mean, as a person that has been speaking up somewhat, I wouldn't say against the ideology that the LGBT community has been pushing, but I've been trying to help you temper the message because while I do in some ways understand some of what the community is going for, I think that the extreme activists go too far, and I still get called a transphobe. So I don't know what it is that you guys think is supposed to happen, that everything's just going to be your way from here on out. And when I say here, I mean about 2015 is when it really started getting ridiculous until now. I mean, if you ask me, you had a good run. That's been 8 years that you've been able to completely control the narrative in a lot of ways. And now in this last year, and only since 2023 started, have you guys really been having to understand that it really is a pendulum. And the way pendulums work is they swing. That's the way pendulums work. So as a society, I would hope that at some point we would all correct that and be like, well, what can we do to maybe make it so things are a little more even? So anyway, let me read the tweets that people are up in arms about before I get too caught up in this, and then we can talk a little bit more about the way this affects everything moving forward. And also my President DeSantis comment. I really think Ron DeSantis is going to be our next president. So people can like that or not like that. I'm not saying I necessarily want that, but I kind of do. But I really think it's just the way it's going to go. We can talk about that on an episode coming up very soon. I promise you that. So one of the tweets that James Estes has put up is one that says, breaking, the NHS have banned puberty blockers for children outside of clinical research. This day will go down in history as the day that safeguarding of children came back into existence. This is something that he has as his pinned tweet, and you can see why he would be a target of the trans or 2S LGBTQIA plus community, because that definitely will get you branded as transphobic. It doesn't matter that a lot of us, including other gays, lesbians, and transsexuals, do think that it's important to exercise caution when it comes to kids. That doesn't matter because you're still going to get branded as transphobic. So what started this whole brouhaha was James Estes posted yesterday. He posted yesterday after posting a tweet saying that I reject the word cis and I don't wish to be called it. I received a slew of messages from trans activists calling me sissy and telling me that I am cis whether I like it or not. Just imagine if the roles were reversed. This is something I've expressed several times if you pay attention to my channel. So Elon Musk replied with, repeated targeted harassment against any account will cause the harassing accounts to receive at minimum temporary suspensions. The word cis or cisgender are considered slurs on this platform. So, just like I warned you guys, eventually things were going to turn out this way. And now, of course, trans people are like, well, how are we supposed to differentiate? We'll get to that in just a second. But the other thing that a lot of people will bring up is the fact that the term cisgender was coined by a German sexologist who also stated the sensuality that spontaneously unfolds between a child and an adult is something wonderful. Volkmar Segush, I think, first used the term cisgender and cissexual in a 1991 publication titled Transsexuals, and the sexologist who came up with cis also claimed there's nothing wrong with pedophilia. So a lot of people have said that they don't want to go by cis because of that, but the community just keeps trying to push it and being like,
you already know, sis.
So then one user posted under the replies, it's hard to keep up with the current PC language on here. So what's the non-slur way for people against cis normativity to refer to cis? Untrans, not trans would be good for Twitter to provide a guide. And then I posted a tweet where I retweeted that, and I just went ahead and answered with normal/natural/biological, or just use man or woman. If you don't put trans before man or woman, we will all know who you mean. It's all pretty simple. And that's really the way that I feel about it. It's not that hard. I've never been talking to a friend and had them say they were hanging out with a man or dating a woman or any of those times that you would use those gender markers, and I've been like, do you mean a trans man? Do you mean a trans woman? No, I've never thought that. Usually people will let you know if they're talking about a trans person because it'll actually matter to the context of the story, or it just doesn't. So I don't know why anybody's trying to make this that difficult. It's really not. But like I said, you do have to understand that at a point when you're hiding behind terms of service, which is something that LGBT community really has done for a long time, and I as a gay man have been, and I don't want to use the victim, but for lack of a better term, the victim in these kinds of situations where I get reported for saying things that in my opinion are very basic and just me being descriptive and really haven't been bad words and shouldn't be considered bad words. I even get in trouble for the way I personally identify. Like, I'm not allowed to use certain words. Like, I often refer to myself and say that I identify as the F slur that rhymes with bag. And that's something that I truly do identify as, because I like that word describes what it is that I personally am. I get it if other gay men don't want to be referred to that way. That's fine, and that's your choice. But the fact that I'm not allowed to, and that's considered a bad word, well, now the shoe's on the other foot. So we've all had to find ways to express ourselves without using the words that the LGBT community doesn't want us to use. So now there's a particular term that they're going to have to work around. And also, Elon just said that it's considered a slur, but he didn't say that people were going to get into trouble for just using it, but it's just targeted harassment. So when you say you don't like something and then you get flooded with it and other people are sharing it so that they can flood you even more with it, well, that's targeted harassment. And if it's not okay to bully LGBT and trans people that way, then why would it be okay to bully biological men and women that way? What's good for the goose is good for the gander. And that's why I say that we really are living in the world that the politically correct left has decided that we're going to live in. So you make your bed, you lie in it. Don't sit and complain to me about the fact that this isn't fair when this entire time, when it's not been fair to everybody else, you've been completely fine with it, gloated about it, and taken advantage of that fact. So now, welcome to living like the rest of us. Enjoy your stay here in reality, and we'll talk about the fact that Ron DeSantis is going to be our next president and how you better prepare yourself to us LGBTQIA plus people for the way that's going to work out for you, because you have overplayed your hand and now it's time to reap what you sow. Anyway, this has been Ty Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world.